also there's some documents, and also in attached, there's some files that were attached. And I don't know if everybody got all those files, but there's a bunch of them in there. If not, you can text the office or email the office. They'll email you those out too, because there's a bunch of good documents. But so what I'll do right now is just go over the basic 5 things that are supposed to happen, and then we'll focus on the PPP. So number 1, there's $1,200 per person, $500 a kid. I think it's under 16 or 16 and under. That I'm not quite sure. And if you gave your bank information for 2018 and had a refund, they're going to directly deposit that money in your bank. Okay. And if they,
Larry, can you hear me?
You couldn't see the attachments?
I can hardly hear you.
Oh, you can't. Okay. Well, that's up. Yeah.
Larry, we can hear you loud and clear, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get close to the microphone, but maybe connections. There's a bunch of people on this. But anyway, so number 2 is the emergency HR related stuff. That is, if you actually have somebody that's really sick. In that case, you could get some of that money back. You could get some of that money back on the your 941 at the end of the quarter. And you have to, and I'm not sure exactly how that works, but you're going to have to prove that you paid them for more than 2 weeks. And then there's an ability to get money actually credited on your 941 from your payroll taxes. But that's if you have somebody sick. If you have somebody sick, reach out to Susan. She's been helping some clients that were they really sick, or exactly what the situation was. Or they just out because they couldn't work. They need to be out and can't work and really sick. They can't just be working from home. You can't get that money. Let's see. Okay, sorry. Okay, next thing is the PPP. We'll come back to it. And then there's 2 other loans, and I'll share that screen because that's what everybody probably should have done. Share, and I want to share this. I want to open that. Okay, so this screen should be shared. Okay, yeah. So it looks like it's being shared. And this is what everybody does for the other two loan applications. You choose one of these. Are you less than 500 employees? That's the most. For the nonprofits, you pick nonprofit, the last one. So you pick this under 501c, either C, D, or E. So it's all the 501c3s, all the 501c7s. So all those, you pick this, and then you have to say yes to all these answers below. You're not in the illegal activity and that kind of stuff. So, okay. So are there any questions on those 4 kind of items? Okay. So those are all pretty, those 4, they're pretty straightforward. Okay. So here's where we're going to start with the PPP. Let me pull up the PPP guidelines, the latest one I've got. Let's see, I got some good emails today with just some real stuff off of. Let's see.
Larry, this is G. In the next screen where it's all those questions are there, it's asking for last year's your sales and that kind of information. Do we use 2018 or 2019 for that?
Okay, on the screen I just showed you, it actually says something terrible. And what the words are January or February 1st through January 31st. And there's nothing that scares us worse than people trying to do fiscal year accounting, and because it's just not easy. So the reality is, what we've got to do is, what we're trying to do, what I did is I actually went through and I used my February 1st through the 31st, and then I rounded it to $1,450,000 or something. I didn't even give them an exact number. These are three numbers that you have to give them. Gross sales for the previous, they're just trying to get a base. What's going to happen is when they finally decide to give you money, they're going to go back and verify. And when I put on there that I actually had $932 million worth of sales last year, and I want to borrow, $300 million, they're going to laugh at me because they're going to look at my real stuff. So put a reasonable number on those other screens. They don't have to be perfect. It just gets you in the game, that other screen. So in fact, if you look at that next page, there literally is only 3 questions that you ask and that are needed. So, G, you have 2 things. Your building has to apply, just like my building, under its own tax ID number, and it needs to apply under the rent. So its gross sales will be whatever its rent were, its cost of goods sold are 0, and its rents, the 3rd bucket, are in there. And that one you can't get advances for because there's no employees. The other one at the very end, you can apply and say, I had employees, and will you shoot me 10 grand? And I tell you, I've been waiting since last Thursday morning about 9:30 for my 10 G's to land, and my bank account still hadn't shown anything. So it's going to take a while.
Larry, did you hear about the security breach for, so they're saying that everybody who applied has to reapply because there was a security breach.
Wonderful. Well, I'll go back and I hadn't heard that. I got a bunch of notices today, but I've not seen that. Let me just see if it was inside this email that I got today. Let's see. Back up right here. Oh, I see. So I've got some emails also about these, in case somebody was really sick. I'll give these to Susan. Middle, sorry. So I will email, I'll put these all, we need to find if Susan's still on here, we got to find a place on the server that we can just get access to instead of emailing, because the documents are getting updated almost daily. So anyway, there's applications out there, and it looks like they may be fairly standard. I asked Joel to join us today. He unfortunately could not. He was, as you can imagine, they're going to roll this out tomorrow, and he probably has, instead of 300 phone calls, he probably has 3,000 phone calls wanting money. So, okay, Dustin, you probably have to reapply. I didn't get an acceptance email either. So if the 72 hours has gone by, it can't hurt to reapply. If you reapply, so what? If they want to give me 10 loans and they accept it, I'm going to take them. So most likely they'll consolidate everything at one point, and we'll be able to know. So I guess, and I know that my banker sent my stuff out and says that as of tomorrow, he believes we may be able to apply. The PPPs that came out from the government in this application that I saw today also said that tomorrow was supposed to be the day. My guess is it's probably going to take until Monday before the banks figure out exactly what it's going to take them to ask for to do this. So my bank even today said, don't send me anything until I ask for it. So I'm not just arbitrarily sending him stuff so that he can figure out that it's wrong. That will not make him happy. So I encourage people not to send them, not to send that stuff out over to the banks yet, unless the bank has specifically said, yes, send it to me. And so I have a question about people with, okay. So Rochelle, let's go. So in the PPP, there are multiple pieces. One is for payroll, related to payroll. And what it is is we're taking the last 12 months of 2019. We're taking our payroll costs of $1 million. We're marking it up 25% to $1,250,000. We're dividing that by 12, and we're marking that by 2.5, and we're asking for a check for $260,416.68. That's the math. And here's how you get to payroll. One, you can look at the W-3s. That's very easy.
Larry, those numbers you just shot out, are all of those in the notes, or is can you go back?
No, you have to pull your payroll. Look at your
I understand
payroll.
that.
Yeah. They want 2.5 months. 2.5 months is what they want of your average from 19. Is that better said?
Okay, so you take all of your earnings from 2019.
Not earnings. We're not talking about any earnings. The PPP is about payroll expenses.
I see, okay.
It is about payroll. And this is going to be reimbursing you for 2.5 months of your payroll and overhead. But the way that the law says, which is payroll, utilities, blah, 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 those right now, what we're reading is they're doing payroll plus 25% and then 2.5 months of that. So you take your whole year, call it $1 million in payroll in your QuickBooks. That's what you want to start with. And why is because you're just asking for a loan. And if you're, and he's not going to prove anything till he looks at your books and then he compares it to your W-3 and then he sees if it's reasonable. You can apply for as many loans as you want for as many businesses as you have. I don't see my good friend that has a whole bunch of businesses he was on last time. He's probably already filed the 26 returns or 26 loans that I asked him to file, and he started crying because he's got 26 different widgets that really might be impacted by this. Lots of real estate with people, locations on them. But anyway, so that guy could have 26 loans at the end of the day. So it's not about one company, two companies, it's about that company. So you have a side company that has one employee and they made $60,000 last year, and it's you. $60,000 divided by 12 times 2.5. I'm going to call that guy and ask him for $12,500. And if I don't fire myself for 8 weeks, they might even forgive the loan for $12,500. Touchdown. So anyway, that's kind of the real way we want to do it. And yes, it is limited to $100,000 per person. Doesn't matter what they do or who they are. The PPP is limited to the first $100,000. So if you make 108, you can only use 100. You make 400, you can only use 100. Okay, Holly, there is no adjusted gross. You're thinking personal. There's gross sales is the business, whatever the gross sales are. And then the next question is cost of goods sold. That's right on your financials. Those are, and they just need to be close. Yep, they just need to be close. Not adjusted gross. The loan amount is payroll. Payroll is what you get. Not a gross or income. It's 2.5 months of payroll. So here I'll do the thing. So payroll equals $100. Now I'm gonna make it easy. $120 per year. So 120 divided by 12 equals 10. 10 divided by 12 equals 8.666. 8.666 times 2.5. I know, David, you already did it. $21,670 potentially for one employee at 100 Gs for last year. Payroll is on your W-3. It's always gross wages. Yes, it's on your W-3, but It's always on the W-3. Yes, it's what your net payroll is. It's running QuickBooks. You just have to know how many people made over 100 grand. So what I did is I went through mine and said, it's 900 grand. There's one person that makes more than 100 grand. Well, I know how much he makes. So I took that little piece of number over 100 and I backed it out of my big number. I was done in 2 seconds. So these are not really rocket science numbers today to get these numbers pretty close. So when the math says it really was $107,000 and the bank recalculates and sits down with you and says, okay, we're ready to approve this, I actually can go up to $22,900. You're going to say, thank you, sir. Right now, we're just trying to get it all in so that because it's first come, first serve. Does that make sense? Okay, yeah, there's a few more. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Okay, so, okay. Okay, so for everybody that's working on it, they need to just, they need to, they can send him I know what it was. Also, if you need lots of stuff, so if you need a lot of stuff, email tax, but if you're asking for things that are like, can you give me my 2017, my 18, and package it with my P&L and stuff, I got to work on tax returns. So I'm not in the middle of any of that. My wife and also Yusuf El Heat maybe be on this thing. Yusuf is offered to, and there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of admin people who are willing to take these on from an administrative plea and put your package together. It really isn't rocket science. And you want your corporate documents. Everybody, for the most part, should have had a book like this. Your corporate documents probably were right in the first couple of pages with my organization documents. These are what they want a copy of, just the first couple of pages. It's pretty straightforward. For those of you that can't find your book, I don't know. You gotta have to find that. Or you can actually order the stuff online from the state of Texas. But you just have to go to the I think Angie knows how to do that kind of stuff, and you can order it. It takes a couple of days or something, or maybe a day to go on and order. Actually, I think Yusuf has to go on and do that. So if his email is actually on this overall document. So if people are looking for someone to help organize it, he'll maybe come to your house. My staff is completely working from home now. So we're a little disorganized. Hopefully by Monday, we'll have our processes in place better. And we're processing returns pretty much every day, but we're probably 10 business days behind of where we normally would be. Pull up any other questions? Oh, you should be able to see me.
Hey, Larry, it's
yeah.
Kim Pettigrew. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My question is, I ran the in details payroll summary report, and several people are asking. So I have a net amount that was paid out. Then it says taxes withheld, deductions.
Yeah, use QuickBooks.
Then the total cost.
Yeah,
so
yeah. But that includes. Listen. That use QuickBooks because that's including your matching taxes. You want to make sure some of that gets included. I'm afraid people are going to pull that report up and they're going to use the wrong one. We're telling people to use QuickBooks because your QuickBooks. Okay,
well, I'm using your payroll service.
Yeah. You'll have to call Casey then. Call Casey directly. I actually don't do anything in that payroll service.
Okay, because it imports to my QuickBooks.
Right, that's what I use. I only look at it in QuickBooks. I never looked at it in the other tool.
So is the total pay or the total payroll cost including all the taxes?
Kim, think closely, think clearly. The only tax you pay on them is the matching tax. All those other taxes came out of their paychecks. They're not taxes you're getting credit for. They're buried in their gross salary, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in QuickBooks, it's got your gross salary plus your matching tax. That's the total you want.
Okay.
That's why I use QuickBooks, because if you pull up the wrong report and you send them the wrong number and you short yourself $5,000, you're gonna be mad. But that's why we use the tool that we use, because it imports directly to QuickBooks and it comes directly on both lines. And it's got both lines, it says payroll taxes and it says payroll. And now mine, I can pull mine up, but it's got lots of lines. It's got, you know, some of you have more sophisticated. It'll say officers and then corporate staff and then, oh, you know, managers and staff. And it may be a big thing, but you just collapse it and you just pull that number for payroll. That's what I started with mine. I just pulled it right out of 1231.
Okay.
And sent it to him, because here's the deal. When he finally sits down with me and he says, I'm ready to sign the loan, I've got the stuff, let's re-verify all these numbers, whatever I've learned, and said, hey, banker, remember, I just saw where now it's no longer just 25% of your payroll costs, but it actually is your utility, and it is your telephone, and it is your rent. Well, those three were more than my 25%. I want to use those three at the very end. We don't know exactly what all the rules are going to be. We just know what's coming out today, but we've got to be prepared. I've done them all the different ways that come out, because I'm going to know at the end of the day when he says, here's what the rule we are accepting as X bank. That's what I'm going to give him. If he's taking 25% of payroll, and if you call me and say your bank is taking the other three, I'm going to say, great. Because if it's bigger, great. If it's less than 25%, use 25%. Any other, let me go see, so pay, no, Dustin, it's in your QuickBooks. So in QuickBooks, look at your P&L ask them for your P&L for last year. They will send you your P&L. You don't need a payroll report. I know a lot of, yes, some of you can use payroll journals. I know some of you don't use our pay cycle. Yeah, I realize that. Yes, so for the ones on ADP, the ones in Paychecks, the payroll journal will use. Yes. Oh, yes. If you're not using, and Dustin, yes, everything you have is in QuickBooks. Call the office. Yes, it's in QuickBooks. Absolutely. So you just need a picture of your P&L for last year, which is in your blue folders from all the other years, and you'll have your 18 in your blue folder. If you open that blue folder, there's a P&L and a balance sheet. On the P&L, it has what your payroll was for 18. You're looking for that number also. They're going to want maybe a couple of years of stuff. My point being, we really can't do anything with 19. But if people had a big jump between 18 and 19, or a big, 19's not ready to be filed. So that's why you use QuickBooks to do all this, right? Tax returns for 19 are not due till July. So we're not going to file those. But if you had a big change in your incomes over the years, you may need to explain that to the bank, because this is a harm issue. You need to be harmed. You need people like my clients who emailed me, especially the restaurants and the 4 or 5 caterers, 5 caterers and 4 truckers, the guys that drive the trucks. First thing they did is about the 20th of March, they called Susan and said, you have to stop all, there's gonna be no money in any of those bank accounts for all our monthly fees. Turn off our payroll, turn everything off. We've been harmed. So now I have to calculate the harm. I fill out this paperwork and I say, here's my 2.5 months, banker, and then here's my harm. Well, if my 2.5 months is $170,000 and my harm is 0 because I'm a collection agency and I stay and all my people are working and I'm actually making more money than I've ever made in my life, well, then that guy may not be harmed. He may not be able to qualify for any of this. The banker may go and look and say, I love all this paperwork, but you don't qualify. You're not harmed. If you're so we don't know, first of all, what the harm is. Explain 5% interest. There is no 5% interest. There's the PPP formula today is payroll times 25% equals the gross payroll for last year. That's your gross nut that you can ask for money. You take that number, divide by 12, and then multiply by 2.5. That's the formula. So it's not 5 interest, it's your payroll of $100,000 last year, or my $1 million, or somebody else's $3 million, whatever it is. You take your $3 million in payroll, you mark it up 25%. That's 75 grand, yeah. So you take your $3,750,000 and you ask for $3,750,000 divided by 12 months times 2.5 months. It's 75 days. If you're wondering why it's 2.5 months, they do things in 75-day increments in the government. So it's 2.5 because think, your tax return is due in 75 days at the end of the year, all those kind of things. Everything works on 75 days. So that's why it's 2.5 months, and that very much confuses people. I get it. So, but it's pretty simple to get in the game. And so when your banker says, fill this out, now here's the hard things. Your personal financial statement. Yeah, that sucks because you got to go in and say, how much money do I have in my savings account, my 401k, and how much money do I have in my my kids, UTM account? How much money do I have? And it just needs to be rough. You know roughly the numbers. Don't spend all day doing these. You need to get it in and get it turned in. If you think your UMTS account for your kid is $1,200, put $1,200. If it turns out to be $1,238 when he asks for a copy of the last monthly bank statement, then he's going to say, oh, you shorted yourself $38. Let's add it to the kitty, whatever. But so yes, so there is, so on the loan, the PPP loan evidently does have interest to it from what I can tell. So let's say that I borrow $175,000 and I get through my 8 weeks and I don't fire anybody. And I fill out my summary that says, here's how much I was harmed. I lost $9, government, in all of this. That's all I lost. Well, they're not going to give me, they're going to say, Larry, the $175,000 we gave you, you're going to pay tax on all but $9. So if you borrow more money than the formula works out to be later, yes, it may have interest and you may even have to pay it back. The whole thing may not be forgivable. It may not be. It's going to be based on the future math. After you've held people, you're going to have to show them payroll reports, right? Payroll, you're going to have to show them that you didn't fire anybody from the day the loan got deposited. Somebody's going to be, the SBA is going to be looking at this big package. And the first thing is my 4 pages of me crying. I'm going to put some tears in through on the pages, get Emma to put some tears on it. And I'm going to cry on 3 or 4 pages of how this thing has devastated me and my business. And hopefully they're going to let me keep all my money. Or they're going to say, I'm full of S and you're going to just be able to get $50,000 for free. You owe me the other $120,000. What? I don't know. We just don't know yet. You have to claim yourself to get the $1,200. If your kid's 21 and you claimed them, nobody gets any money for that because they're claimed on yours and they're over 16. So if you have kids, there's no claim. There's nothing to, the $1,200, they're going to look at your 18 tax return. If you made less than $150,000 as a family and you got a refund, they're going to drop $1,200 in your bank account next Friday, maybe. If you owed money like me, they're going to mail me my $1,200 and I'm going to get, or Susan and I's $2,400, and they'll mail it to me, but I get nothing for Jaden. She's 20 years old, she's in college, and I get nothing for her. Because and there's nothing to claim. Although I've not done her 19 return, I wonder how much money she made last year. What if she could claim herself? Then she could get $1,200. Sorry, I'm drifting. But anyway, we have to think about, because we don't really know. We really don't know all the scenarios that are out there. But if they give me $175,000 and they forgive $50,000 of it, and they make me pay the $125,000 back at 2% or something, I'm probably gonna be okay. I don't know, For payroll, yeah. So the PPP is only based on payroll. No, owner, you can't claim for your daughter. No, she's if you're claimed on your return, she's not going to get anything. She's 21, not going to get anything. No money. Okay, there's not a, okay, so we're getting confused. People are saying PPP, how much do I apply for? If a PPP is applied for, it is only for your payroll protection. It's a paycheck protection program. So if you are one of my clients who makes $100,000 and they take $75,000 in a draw and only $25,000 in a W-2 because they're only working part-time at their insurance business or whatever, then you get 25,000 divided by, or times 1.25, times 1.25, that's 25%. Divide that by 12 times 2.5. And yes, you could apply for $6,510 from your bank. No, health insurance is not included. No, this is just payroll. And it's just gross payroll. It's so simple because they don't want to make it complicated. Yep, they're trying to keep it as simple. And that's why we're using QuickBooks, especially if everybody uses PayCycle, because it just downloads it, gives me a perfect number. I can throw that back against the W-3. They can take the long time of the W-3. They can look at your financials. They can add two numbers that are done. It works really well. Okay, Trace says that health insurance is included. I've not seen that from what, that is not on, someone will have to send that to me. Oh, I see what it says. Okay, no, there is something new. High subscription is anticipated that not more than 25% of the forgiven amount may be for non-payroll costs. So here's what they're saying. So here's they're changing it. So this is why it's very confusing. It looks like you can apply for your utilities, your health insurance, your gas bill, your water bill, whatever you have at your offices that run your business, utilities. What they say is payroll costs, mortgage interest, rent, utilities. And if you add those up and it's more than 25%, so in my example, my payroll's $100, these other three things add up to $35. What's going to happen if I borrow the whole $135? Then they may only forgive me 125 of it. That's what this latest thing is trying to say, I believe. So I'm going to ask for 160% because I'm greedy. And if they give it to me, great. If they only give me 135% of it, great. If they forgive 125% of it, great. If they make me pay 10% of it back, I'll cry. And right here, it says interest rate is 0.5% fixed rate on the PPP loan. At that, I might borrow, 2 years. The loan is due in 2 years. So, okay, yes, all payments are deferred for 6 months. Interest could continue to accrue over this period. When is it due in 2 years? So that's all new stuff, and I'll post some of that. That's all good stuff I'm just seeing come out. I don't know if this will work, but I'll try to post this. It looks like there's a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you can read that in chat and copy it, but anyway. So this just came from today. So anyway, let me see if there's any more questions. No, you can't compare 18 and 19. No, they're not getting complicated. It's simple. Take your 2018 number. So if a guy in 2018 was paying $7,000 a month in rent, and he's so smart, but in January of 2019, he went down to pay $0 in rent. He just can't borrow money on the rent because he moved home. Just can't. You can't use 18. They're using 18 only for the $1,200 free money. Or wait, I did read something that the $1,200 that everybody's getting is actually in advance on their taxes next year. So that's a little bit, so I need to figure that out. If actually I'm getting $2,400 that I actually owe them back on taxes next year. So If you don't have rent in 2019, it doesn't matter. Doesn't count. Just doesn't count. Only 19 they're looking at.
Hardest per dollar.
Hmm? Oh, hang on. Okay, somebody came back in. Okay, so does my daughter, okay, wait. Daughter. No. Owner. Not sure who that is. No, she cannot get $1,200. Yeah, thanks for the fact sheet. That's good. That's news coming out too. But yes, no, she cannot get $1,200. If she's on your return and she's over 16, she gets 0, just like my daughter Jaden. If she claimed her own last year, then she could get $1,200. Two of my other daughters did claim returns themselves, and they will both get $1,200. They claimed themselves last year, not on my tax return. So both of those kids who are 22 and 23 and 24, they will get $1,200, and they're hoping that it's deposited soon. There's no revenue. There's no revenue, doctor. There's no revenues. There's no revenues part of any of this. That's just if you're doing the thing on the website, that's just your gross business revenues. No, retirement funds are not part of income. We got Joe. Okay. Anything else? If we don't think we include. Yeah. There's on the $1,200. There's nothing to claim. If you never get it, means you probably didn't file an 18 return, which means you were claimed on somebody else's return. Means you didn't file your own return. You're claimed on somebody else's. You're not old enough. No, Jonathan, it's 2019 payroll. The only thing for 2018 is for the $1,200. All the loans have to be based on 19 information for your business. So the PPP loan is all about 19 because it's a real loan. The $1,200 is if you filed a return in 18 or if you filed an early return in 19 and you have their number, then they're just going to drop $1,200 in your bank hopefully next week. Yeah, if you didn't have payroll in a business, the PPP is based on payroll. So if you did what one of mine did and just made very little in W-2 because he's older and doesn't really need to be funding his Social Security and Medicare, that's not a great decision this year. But it was a great decision when he was doing it in 19. But when we found out the new rules, maybe he would have rather paid himself the whole $100,000, paid $15,000 in self-employment tax instead of about $2,500 in self-employment tax, and maybe got money back after giving $12,000 to the government. Yes, everybody that's applied that's not gotten a notification back needs to reapply. I'm going to reapply for both of mine, yes. No, the disaster relief application has nothing to do with the PPP. No, completely different programs. That's why it's all confused.
I have a question, Larry.
Okay.
Okay, so for the disaster relief loans, are they looking at, are they looking more at what you pay out in expenses? Because, it just lists on there.
Only. Yeah, only. They don't. Yeah, here's the deal. For the reimbursement piece, they're looking at what you spent, not lost revenue. You're not going to get anything because you're a restaurant and nobody showed up in your door. They're not going to say your revenues used to be this big and we're going to give you all that revenue money to pay your employees. No, what they're going to say is how much do you owe the employees? And you're going to say $100 last year, 100,000 payroll, divide that by 12, multiply that by 2.5, and you're going to say 2.5 months of night payroll and utilities and rent is X. And you're going to ask your bank for that money. And then he's going to ask you for a load of documents.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not talking about the PPP loan. I'm talking about like the,
7
From
a.m.
the
to 7. Correct. Okay. So yeah. So once you get an email back from the disaster loans, they will tell you what to do.
okay. I just had a question because on the website, it just asks, whenever you go to apply for the loan, it asks you what your gross
Yeah.
revenue was.
Gross revenue, cost of goods sold, and then if you had any rents. Yes, 3 numbers. Just be
Yeah.
close. Be close. Get them in there and hit enter and see if you get an email back.
But my question is the loan going to be based on what you made or what you put out?
What you expense your payroll costs, the cost of your payroll. If you're a sole proprietor, it's the cost of what you would have taken home as your profit as a sole proprietor. But think of the sole prop person as the guy who took all the money at the end. That's the number, that's the net number that they're going to be looking at. That's the number they'll divide by 12 and multiply by 2.5. So if you brought in 100 grand, that's your gross sales. If you have $20,000 worth of cost of goods sold and 0 rent, that's what you put. Then they're going to say later, when they start sending you all this information and ask for gobs of information, they're going to say, looks like you want to borrow something on the order of $80,000 or part of $80,000. Yes. And so, or you want to borrow 200 grand or 500 grand. The SBA loans could be up to $10 million. And we're not involved in any of that. That will be, once you get an info back from the bank, from the SBA, they will say, who's your banker? And then they'll send you directly to that bank that's holding the SBA loans. You'll go work directly with that banker and he will ask you for a bunch of paperwork.
Okay, understood.
So ultimately, bankers do all of this. Bankers do all of this at the end of the day. The banks, the SBA, as everybody knows, has $0 in the bank. The SBA has no money, never has had any money. It simply is a facilitator. So the banks have all the money and they get the discounts or the credits or whatever they're going to get for doing the government a favor by giving us a bunch of money. So they're happy to do it, but it only has $369 billion in it. And I'm only going to ask for 1 billion of it. So the 369 other people can ask.
I have a totally unrelated question. Can you see us that have
No.
joined the webinar?
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Okay. Yeah, disaster relief. Okay. Disaster relief includes all of those. Oh, there's more people in the waiting room. I didn't know that. Okay.
So Larry, when can we actually start applying for the PPP?
When your bank tells you you can.
And if you have already applied for EIDL, can we still apply for PPP?
Absolutely. 5 independent loans, 5 independent things, 5 completely different programs.
But you have to pick only one?
No, what are you crazy? No, there's 5 programs. All 5 are independently being managed. All 5 are opportunities. No, we're not picking and choosing. Oh my God, that would be so hard. It'd be impossible. So I've applied for 4 things so far.
Okay, but PPP is the only one that can be forgiven, is that?
Correct.
Okay.
So let's say you own a big building and your biggest client is whatever, and they all bail and they don't pay you they actually close down and go bankrupt. Well, your building, you could borrow money at cheap interest rates, 3.75 for that building. And that will allow you then to, get going back to find somebody else to get in there. They will help you on that if it's COVID related. But if they moved out and they scheduled moving out 9 months ago and they moved out yesterday, you can't say it was COVID. The bank's not going to give you no money. They're going to look at it and say, your lease is entered. You just didn't re-find anybody. I'm not giving you billions of dollars when you didn't release it. You have to be harmed. You have to find your harm. And my letter right now, I think Susan started is, I don't know, page and a half, 2 pages. We're using some specific examples of, you know, the different types of industries that have, or that we do business with that are harmed. And, you know, so on ours, they'll know that they're not paying us.
Okay, one more question. I believe you already talked about the formula. So let's say if I have 2 employees and
Good. Yeah, we'll do that on emails. But okay, but it doesn't matter. It's just the formula. It doesn't matter how many employees you have. So I don't want to get down into the nuts and bolts of 1 employee, 2 employees. It's by company. So if you have 26 companies, like one of my good friends, and he gets on the floor and cries because I tell him he has to file 26 sets of numbers, and 10 of them, I think, have payrolls in them or something. He's got somebody has to help him because it's a mess. But he's going to literally file. And if he lost them, oh, he's going to be really mad. I'll have to call him and see if he got his notices. Because he'll have to refile 26 times. So it's by company, and it's your banker's formula. My banker's formula has changed 3 times since yesterday.
So Larry, it's Kim again. So on the PPP, the information and the documents, you said you got updates this morning?
I just put it in the notes in the chat. Did you read it in the chat?
I'm on the chat.
It's
The
starting
screen
April
just
2.
has the original relief, disaster relief.
No. The chat, in the chat room, it says that when can I apply? Starting April 3rd, 2020. Other regulated lenders be available to make these loan decisions or so how much can I pay my loan? It's anticipated not more than 25% of the loan for non-payroll costs. This is what came out. I copied it into the chat room. Don't know how you access chat on this thing, except.
Can you bring the chat room to the shared screen so they could see it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know how to make that share. But yeah, you want to go from what your bank tells you anyway. You want the latest information from whatever your banker tells you, because they're telling us on the PPP, it's got to be your local bank guy. And so I don't care if people take home and fill out all the paperwork I've sent them on paper, but it's not what you're going to send into your banker. It's not the right form, because your banker is going to have Frost at the top or Inwood Bank at the top or wherever you're banking. And it's going to be their form, and it's going to fit into their computer schedule so that it gets dumped into their system the way they want it done. So I filled out paperwork the other day, all in paper, my financial statements, all of that stuff. I'm just waiting for whatever computer system opens up for me to retranspose all those numbers right into hopefully a computer screen, or I'll package them and give them to my banker. Where was that? So in this economic one, the EIDL, that one at the very end, you can ask for $10,000 at the end. It's up to $2 million, and ask for $10,000 in advance. And if anybody's interested to know, if I get a $10,000 hit in my bank account, I'm going on vacation, because I don't know that's going to actually happen, but we'll see. So that's the first one. And that's your economic disaster loan. You're going to deal with the 7A and the 7B, or the 7A and the 5A, I think, are the 2 kinds of loans. And they're supposed to redo the paperwork for that. Yeah, for nonprofits, you do the same thing. You just need your tax ID. You just need to apply. So nonprofits can apply just like regular corporations. If you have payroll, you can get PPP. If you have lost a lot of staff, a lot of children left the school, then you might be able to apply for one of these other loans from the building perspective for the nonprofit. You want to apply under the tax ID that owns the widget that was harmed. So if the widget that's harmed is the school and it's under tax ID X and it also owns a building, well, it's just under that tax ID number. You may have to then, once you get in there, you may have to tell IRS, hey, this is what I want to do. So nonprofits, everybody, sole proprietors. I know Kim mentioned earlier, she's got a lot of her employees are sole proprietors making whatever. You know, they're working, you know, 40, 50, $100,000 a year. They can file for the same thing. Somebody out there in this, you know, it's a home that works as a, you know, as a contractor makes 100 G's. Absolutely they can. They can go and file under their social security number and say, how are you harmed? Well, last year I made 100 grand. This year I'm probably on target to make 40. So I'm fairly harmed. That goes in the letter. That goes in the letter of what's going on. And then what goes on after the letter is the map. And it says, this is what I've made so far when you apply. So I've got plenty of small proprietors that are doing that, that are filing the same thing under their sole proprietorship, their social. So it does not have to be under a business. It does have a place for trade name. So if you do are sole proprietor and your name is Larry Patterson and the trade name is Patterson CPA, well, that's what you would put in the trade name. But they've made it welcome. They made it good for the, it made it good for the small business guy. Now, I also noticed on this, it says expiration date 9/30/2020. When I filled this out the first time, it says 3/31/2021. So I don't know whether they're ratcheting this thing down already or what. But when I filled out my paperwork originally, because I print all these screens, mine says 3/31/2021 was the original date. But there won't be money that far out. Listen, the 4506 is based on the tax ID. If the 4506 is for your personal, then you put that's your social. If the 4506 is for the corporation, then you put the corporation tax ID. So when I applied for my corporation loan, I put the corporation loan there and I did a 4506 for my corporation. I just happened to sign both pieces of paper. Yeah, the Department of Treasury, the SBA, they have a whole bunch of stuff. And like I said, it's moving very quickly. We're going to finish our stuff tonight, I think, and then we're going to try to figure out, I'm going to go in if I haven't gotten any, and Susan hasn't, I'm going to just reapply on ours. The only thing they can ever do for you is say, Larry, why did you apply 37 times? And I'm simply going to tell them, because I wasn't sure you were ever going to get it. Yes, if owners are not paid, they're out. SO, sorry. No, K1s are absolutely not included. Absolutely not. So the people who have small businesses and they wanted to kind of get around their Social Security and Medicare, like my older good friend who's a fishing buddy who refuses to take more than about $20,000 a year on his 100 Gs because he doesn't want to pay Social Security, he does not get anything on the $80,000 K1. No, doesn't count. It's not part of the calculation. Doesn't even count because it's not part of rent. It's not utilities. Oh yeah, I did record this. How I save it and where I put it, I don't know. That's a good question. You always can send some emails and I will do another one of these on Monday probably, because over the weekend, my guess is I'll try to do one like Monday afternoon, because Monday is when I think they're going to open it. And hopefully by then I've got things filed. I'll start understanding it better. Interesting. Oh, okay. This has, okay. All right. I'll get Amber. Okay. Yes. So I have Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive. Okay. We'll figure something out. I'll get one of the children. But I see I have options on all of this. So
Hey Larry, it's Kim again. Where did y'all see that the EIDL processing was compromised?
yeah, I don't know. Bank, one of the hospital, one of the people that said that's in a hospital. Yeah, I'll have to research that myself. I'm gonna call my banker. He's up on all of this.
I just saw it online. It popped up in my news feed. It was, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So it was Newsday. You know, I don't know if it's true. It says small business owners must reapply for federal disaster loans. So it's
Well, they
just,
should, yeah, my guess is somewhere on here, on the first page, they need to be telling us that pretty quickly. You know, hey, that if you've already applied once, you're good, or hey, if you've applied once before this date, you may need to apply again. So it's not on this for anyway, it's at least not on this main site.
yeah, I did look at the main site and it wasn't on there. So,
yeah, I'm on it
you know,
right
I
now.
don't know, but that's just what I saw.
Okay, so I will reconvene this again on a Monday. Okay, so just about to hit it on the tip. Monday, I'll probably send out another giant email that has, I realize that sometimes there's like 1,000 emails on it. So, you know, people get it, you know, just to blast them and try to have another one on Monday. I'm also waiting for some people to actually get loans and get responses. So to email me and say, yeah, I got a response from them, or hey, I didn't get a, you know, so that we can start tracking and start figuring out, okay, look guys, it seems that it's taken them, instead of 72 hours like it says, it's taken them 7 days to basically get your email back. Okay, well now we know what to expect, because I don't believe very much at this point. I think they're so overwhelmed that they're just guessing. Now, there's nothing you can do before Monday. It's just really, I'm taking questions and answers about how some of these plans work. Yes, yes, yes. Just because you have Corporation One and it was harmed, if it has a split off and it's got 9 partners that all have S corps that sit below here, you need to file 10 times probably if all 10 were harmed. Well, we know the first one's going to be harmed. We just don't know about all the bottom ones. If some of your doctors are COVID doctors and are making $1 trillion a year, they probably aren't going to get a loan. But my podiatrists and those kind of guys, I don't know how that's working. I don't know with the elective stuff. The people that do, you know, augmentations and stuff, I'm not quite sure if they're really harmed. Are they losing cases and being pushed out? No, I do not do any applications. Every application has to be done by the person that has to, and it has to go directly to the government or to the bank. No, we don't apply for anything. So, yeah, there's a new guy, just a nurse right there, asking if he's got to buy new stuff. So, and he's a contractor, you know, nurse, and he's buying stuff. Yes, you those capture it all for now, and then we'll look and try to figure out how much you can ask for. But when we do ours, I'm already in for about 20 G's worth of new computers. We now have 3 monitors for everybody at their house, multi-monitors for everybody at their house, 3 in most places. We've had to upgrade our IT system. I've paid my IT guy more money than I could ever imagine. And every time you need a phone fix, it's $50. So we've been harmed not only financially by clients leaving, but we've been harmed by new costs that are coming in. And I'm assure you, I can add all those up very well, and I can attach receipts to them when they finally ask, and I can say, here's all my harm. I really am harmed for $150,000. Let me keep my money, please, and don't ask for me back. Now, I also know the government very well. They are going to 1099 you on this money if they forgive it. So don't let anybody think that just because it's forgiven, you don't have to pay tax on it. I'm pretty sure about that. From everything I've read, it's a forgiven loan, which means it goes through the 1099-C process. which means only the people who are actually insolvent when they get these loans will actually be able to not pay tax on them, is my guess, when we get it all said and done. But that's not till 2021. Now, you want to ask for as much as what you think you've been harmed. I mean, if I think 25,000 or a month worth of clients are going to leave starting in June, and I can do that, and I think that it's 3 months worth of stuff, well, that's part of my harm. And I may ask for $100,000 from the 3.75% loan to offset my loss of revenues because of my harm. Let me rebuild my business. Let me do marketing. Let me go out and find new customers. Well, let me borrow 100 grand at 3.75%. And I'm going to do a PPP and get $150,000 and hope to God nobody asks for it back. And then they just send me a 1099-C and I got to pay 25 grand on that money. I'll be the happiest guy in town. Questions? All right, I will work. I don't exactly know what Monday looks like. I will get with the business, but I'm just going to redo mine. I already did mine. And I'll go in here and I'm just going to go in and reapply mine. Whoa. Enter the number? No. At the very end, there's a page that prints. Print the number at the very end. Yeah, it's like a 12-digit number. Print the very last page. When you're all done with this, you want to print the very last page. Franchise on these questions are asking about very easy. No. Primary business address. So you know what that is. Very simple forms to fill out. You got to put the date that the business started, which was for me was 06/01/2011, and that's actually on an 06/01/11 business activity. So this is very simple. And at the very end, those are not the exact numbers that I have. They're just close. I'm just getting in the game and getting my stuff applied. I don't really know. You got to pick one of these things. We don't even, that ain't, whatever. We had 15, I think. 14, that was a contractor. It doesn't have to be exact. It just has to be close enough for government work. 06/01/2011. My phone number, business phone, 214-725. Oh. And I'll go find my tax ID, trade name, and ask for it. Put it in there. Whatever. Just make it easy. No, 1099s do not count. Sorry, you missed that. So yes, 1099s do not count. Only real payroll counts for not the PPP. Only real payroll for PPP. At the very end, I need to go file my tax return. Any other? I just reapplied. Okay. Yeah, same thing. So Jonathan, yeah, that's kind of what mine. It needs another 1 million companies have applied since Tuesday. Yep, absolutely. If that's true, if the numbers are in numerical order. Thank you, Jonathan. I'll track that. I'll know that after I apply for mine. And then I'll know if this thing is growing and how it's growing exponentially. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna go find my tax ID and I'm gonna apply for my loan and pray. Yes, it says right here, nonprofits. Apply for nonprofit. Right here, is the applicant a nonprofit? If you're a nonprofit, you say yes. I'm not a nonprofit. I wish I was sometimes. I feel like I'm nonprofit sometimes. Okay. All right. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time.